Hello, and thank you for joining us on the first edition of Journalists Hangout this week. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Today on the program, Taraba, Benue governments demand massive security deployment to end Tiv and Jukun crisis. Elder statesman Edwin Clark advises PDP to accept House of Reps decisions on minority leadership positions. NMA, that's the Nigeria Medical Association, raises alarm, says brain drain fueling newborn maternal deaths in Nigeria. And later on the program, Super Eagles of Nigeria set up dicey Nations Cup final tie against South Africa as Giants crash out. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Mojid Jamiu, and Wale Adeoye. Journalist Hangout starts now. Thank you for joining us. We welcome you once again to the program. When two brothers quarrel, they usually fight to finish. Hence the saying that outsiders inherit their property. The lingering communal clash between Tiv people of Benue State and their neighbors, the Junkun of Taraba State, has festered for too long. To end the age-long conflict, governments of both states held a joint security meeting in Makurdi and called for massive deployment of security personnel to communities affected by the crisis. The resolution of the meeting, which was signed by the deputy governors of both states, Benson Abono and Haruna Manu, also wants the two governors to summon a meeting of traditional rulers of the affected communities to deliberate on solutions. Enough should be enough regarding the crisis. Gentlemen, welcome. From my immediate left, Babajide Kolade Otitoju, followed by Mojid Jamiu, and to my far left, Wale Adeoye. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Babajide, the Middle Belt has not recovered or is still in the throes of the farmer-herders clashes, only to be yet again bedeviled by the Tiv-Jukun crisis. Perhaps you would like to put the Tiv-Jukun crisis in historical context for us.
Yeah, it's probably even older than the farmers-herders conflict. The Tiv and the Jukun people have been killing themselves since I was a kid. I've been reading about killings between these two nationalities since I was a kid. So it's not something that began recently. And the killings are so frequent that you wonder why an end has not been found to it. I remember that back in the day, even General Danjuma was accused of harming his Jukun
tribe.
kinsmen, yes. You know, so, and basically the quarrel is usually about land. The place is very combustible. Any little quarrel, it could just be a case of someone encroaching on a farmland that does not belong to him. And it will lead to real conflagration with so many people being killed. Especially in the Wukari area. In the 90s, so many people were killed in the course of this conflict. It became a real national issue around 1992. So I don't think the solution is simply to populate the area with soldiers and policemen, and other security agencies. No, the people must genuinely agree to live together. The people must genuinely tell themselves that, look, enough of these killings. Enough of these killings. When the boundary adjustment was made, the decision that was reached was, look, if you find yourself on the Benue side, then you belong to Benue. If you find yourself around Wukari, because the truth is, the thieves are in both states. There are about 3 local governments in Taraba where you have many thieves, you know, and then the Jukuns too. You will find a lot of them in Ukum local government. In fact, the federal, university in Wukari has a huge population of thieves. It's just to tell you that these people, they are more or less, in terms of geography, you can refer to them as brothers. So why they can't stop these killings is the big problem. No matter how many policemen we pump into that area, if the people do not truly decide amongst themselves that they want to stop the killings, honestly, it will not stop. And I say this because of what happened in Mambila. Mambila, so many people were killed in Mambila when they had their own crisis 2 years ago. But the people came together and told themselves, that, what have we gained killing one another? And they genuinely decided to pursue the path of peace. And since that time, killings have not happened in Mambila. Those are people who had lived for many years in peace. Suddenly, there was this crisis and they started killing one another. But the people who truly, when the people come together to say, look, we want to end this, it will end. Modakeke and Ife, it ended now. And it was on a peace table that peace was truly achieved. So this is what I want to see. If leaders of those the communities and their governors work together for peace, genuinely for peace, we will find peace.
Mojid, without trying to feel the crisis, but looking at it objectively, when two brothers fight, as we said earlier, in this setting, isn't it fodder for the Fulani to continue to pursue their political domination of these brothers?
Yeah, you see, just like Jide said, no truce is greater than our ability to coexist in a peaceful manner. And when land is involved, it becomes traditional, it becomes historical. And it happens all over the world, not only in Nigeria. And you see, to take it further, those who are clamoring for Nigeria to be dismembered, you discover that if we have a Biafra today, then you see people from Niger Delta also quarreling. If you have an Oduduwa Republic today, like my brother will always ask for, Akara himself, Wale, you see that the people from Egba who want to claim leadership, Ekiti.
Over the Ekitis.
Over the Ekitis. Ekiti will claim leadership over some other, the Oyo. So, over Okun. So, it will continue to go deeper. But our ability to cohabit in a peaceful manner, and you see, and you want to ask what is in a land? It has killed so many people. And when the issue of land is involved, I advise people, I think it's something we can, but some people will tell you, it is our land, nobody can take it away from us. It has to do with, and now, part of the resolution by the deputy governors of Benue and Taraba that co-chaired the peace meeting at the weekend was that the traditional rulers should be involved, while they set up a committee involving both thieves and Jukuns to find an amicable solution to this crisis. But you discover that it is those traditional rulers that will even start to say that, no, this is our land extends to so place, and that nobody can come in and take a part of our land. So as long as we continue to see land as an ancestral thing, as it's very, I mean, gone were those days where they say it's government that owns all the land, but you see that even where there is that claim of government ownership of a land through the Land Use Act, we still have some people claiming that the ancestors own some of this. So except we all agree that we should live together as one, be it thieves, Jukuns, Fulani, herdsmen, farmers, there will continue to be crisis. And if this is not nipped in the bud, I've said it on this program before, that we are in the rainy season now, and some of these crises, if it is not land, it is cattle grazing on farmland or looking for water. So if this is happening in the rainy season. You can imagine what will happen when the dry season comes. We've had situations where the cattle go and graze on a massive
all right.
farmland.
Unity is key, but then again, Wale, when are we going to come to that point in Nigeria where we'll see ourselves first and foremost as Nigerians before I am a TV man or a Junkun man or before I am Ijebu or Egba?
Well, for me, that's really fundamentally wrong. If charity begins at home, first of all, you are a Yoruba person before you become a Nigerian. I'm an Ekiti man before I can become a Yoruba man.
But isn't that the problem?
You cannot be a good Nigerian if, first of all, you are not good in your own nationality. But I think it depends on how we apply, these norms. I mean, there have been people who promoted nationalism, like Awo, like Saduana, and they use it to benefit their people. Say the interest of my people first, But when you now use these things to further parochial interest, to start violence, I think that is where the problem is. In the case of Junkun and TV, actually there's no basis for them to continue to fight each other. They are mainly Christians. They share the same religion. And in fact, historically, they are of the Bantu stock, in terms of their migration, And apart from that, if you look at Benue State, it's controlled by a PDP government. Taraba State, the same thing.
By a PDP government?
So, but I think over the years, there have been suspicion, people have suspicion. There's problem of political exclusion, where a group feels that to dominate the whole process. Then we also have to look at how some of these states were created without consultation with the people. And when you have a situation where local governments, states were created without meeting the people, discussing with them, some of these things are landmines laid by the military. Until today, they continue to rear their heads. And that's why when you read some of our books, he advocated creation of local government states, and you have to take into consideration ethnic, configuration. But most of these states were created without consultation with the people. It was the military that just sat down, carved this area, this local government in Benue, this one in Taraba. If you see now, you have TV in Taraba. You have them in Benue. You have them in Nasarawa. The same thing with the Junkun. So when they were created, Taraba, I think, was created in 1991. Then some other states were created in 1997 by the military. So there were no consultations with the people, and these states continue to look at some states, some countries like India. You have a state that is about 34 million, Kerala. Then you have smaller states that are Siki is a state with 671,000 people. So in the course of our history, our leaders have failed to constructively engage us in terms of demarcation, creation of states and local governments. And these are some of the reasons why today we have these landmines that are put into place by the military, and they will continue unless we readjust some of these boundaries based on the genuine aspirations and fears of the people.
Yeah. Interesting. And that's a good way to anchor it. Moving on, in politics, you win some and lose some. But the ultimate show of political dexterity is to let go when the table turned and strategize for battles to come. The opposition, People's Democratic Party, PDP, was miffed when it couldn't have its way on election of minority leaders in the House of Representatives. But elder statesman Edwin Clark has advised the PDP leadership to accept the decision of the House on the minority leadership positions in good faith. According to him, it is the duty of members of the House to determine who leads them, and not that of a political party. He urged the PDP to focus more on major issues in the country and play the role of opposition effectively. The deed is done, or what do you say, gentlemen? Babajide.
I think this is a lost battle that the PDP leadership is banging its head on the wall over. Once the battle is fought and lost, there's no point. These guys activated Order 7, Rule 8 of the
National Assembly
rules. So, and it says clearly that the leadership shall emerge from within the fold of the National Assembly, not from outside. If in the past parties were getting away with simply handpicking leaders, it doesn't mean that it will continue like that forever. These guys, they sat together and came up with 111 signatures. Signatures of PDP members, signatures of other minority party members, which was strategic. So this thing is not simply, yes, PDP has the numbers when it comes to minorities in the House of Reps. But you must carry along other members from other minority parties. That's what the group that installed the Lumelu did. And they also felt that why should, after Wike especially had produced the chairman of the party, national chairman of the party, why does he want to produce the minority leader from his hometown?
Okay.
And they now felt, if you are saying that Rivers State has always been strong supporters, they've always supported the PDP strongly, you can also say that of a state like Delta. So in their wisdom, they decided to move to Delta and got someone, Elumelu from there. Elumelu was not even originally a supporter of Gbajabiamila. He was not in their group.
In fact, he was in the race.
He was not in their group. But the Victor Nwokolo that they preferred said he was not interested in the position. So they had to look for Elumelu who had the experience. So it is within their right, what they have done, they did within their right, within the powers that they have. And that's what the old man is saying. He said that there's no place, even in the PDP constitution, which says they should nominate people and give to the House. That's what Edwin Clark has said. You may not always like the old man. But in this case, the old man scored the bullseye. It's the truth. You can't always have your way. And the alternative is that these guys, if you do harass these guys too much, they will go and join the APC. Yeah. And there are many. So the party is too early for the PDP to start fighting over spilt milk. This battle has been fought and lost. Next time, try to bring your people together, because immediately these guys won the election into the National Assembly. No conscious attempt was made to even bring everyone together and say, look, this is the interest of the party. You can't at the last minute now simply send a list to them and expect them to expect that those are the people who emerge. And Gbajabiamila has done nothing wrong. People are saying Gbajabiamila wanted to punish the PDP because the PDP didn't endorse him. That's absolute balderdash. But Gbajabiamila did what he did because he saw the accompanying note. The accompanying note had 111 members. Signatures. And from different parties. The other one only had PDP members. So he did the right thing because the majority, and in any case, has to carry the day. So that's what has happened. If they continue to push this matter, they are going to get their fingers burnt, and they will be dealt, they will be served an exemplary lesson.
Interesting. Majid, the elder statesman also took us down memory lane where he made some very interesting points. Let me read from what he said. PDP alone has established the precedent. In the 7th Assembly, PDP zoned the speakership position to the southwest. It was not zoned to the southeast or northwest, but members said they would regulate their own functions, that they would elect someone of their choice. Even PDP in President Jonathan's time disagreed with them, but the same PDP said at that time that it was the same Gbajabiamila, who was the minority leader, that was behind PDP members in the House at the time when Tambua, then a member of the House from Sokoto, said he will contest against a lady. That's Mulikat Akondi.
From
and
State,
Ihedioha was to be his deputy. The table has turned. See how history is repeating itself.
You see, this same PDP were clapping for Saraki when he jettisoned the APC and chose the majority leader for the House in 2015. When the Oyegun-led APC then were crying, were shouting, but the PDP were in support of Sharaki, and they said there is no party inside that hallowed chamber. They are members of the National Assembly. So they decide whoever leads them amongst themselves. And that's why we saw for the very first time a member of the opposition becoming the deputy Senate president in Ike. Now coming to the Ninth Assembly now. I think we should let Nigerians know that we have 360 members. APC has 219.
Okay.
The PDP has 121, while other minority parties has 20. Now, from the 141, they need to pick somebody. That's the 121 APC, 121 PDP, and the other 20 minority parties like maybe I think CPC, SDP, ABGA, and all of them. They have 20. PRP, they have 20 put together, while PDP has 121. So, out of the 141, 111 voted for Ndidi Elumelu, or rather had their signatures for him.
Opted for him.
So, if you take 111 away from 141, you have just 30 left. So, what Edwin Clark is saying is that, guys, come on, you don't have the numbers, and you can't. You are the minority. You can't have your ways all the time. I think what Wike and Secondus, what they are trying to say, that I mean, now we have Secondus from Rivers, and you also have, you want to have the minority leader from Rivers State. No, well, Rivers, you can say, is a one-party state, but then Delta is also equally doing well, and in the Elumelu, I mean, like Jide said, he never even had interest in contesting, but the members, the minority party in the House saw some leadership qualities in him, and they went for him. So, for once, Edwin Clark is playing the role of a statesman, and I think it's better for Secondus and Wike to heed his advice, or else these guys will go and join the APC, because you can imagine the APC has an overwhelming majority in the House of Reps, 219 out of 360, and the other 20 members, the other 20 minority parties, you can say that oftentimes they will go the way of the majority party. So it's going to be a no contest, and if you continue to push these guys, and you could see the speaker, Bajabi Amila, reading a riot act. I mean, when they were trying to cut away the maize, that they should not.
You start in the wrong place.
Chinda went to sit in the position of the minority leader. And he said he should not test the resolve of the House. Although some people have been saying that was a bit too harsh, but then I think the rules of the House must be respected. I think that's the point the Speaker was trying to make.
Wale, we always talk about Rule 8 when we want to refer to the independence of the institution, the legislative institution. But then again, when the elections were fought and won, the handwriting was clear on the wall as far as the All Progressives Congress was concerned. We know where it wanted to go, where the Speaker was concerned, the Deputy Speaker. But in the case of the former opposition party, it wasn't quite clear where it even wanted to align with as far as the leadership of the House was concerned. So why was it not in sync with its members-elect on the minority positions, which is its own interest?
Well, for me, I think PDP is being overwhelmed by the interests of individuals that is being presented as the interest of the party. Because Elumelu is in PDP, is a member of PDP. So I don't understand the noise. Why you are insisting that, it's not the position of the Senate, of the House of Rep, it's not the Speaker, it's just the leader of opposition, the minority leader, which should ordinarily go to the PDP. So in as much as there are no clear-cut evidence that is working on the ground for APC, is a member of your party. I see no reason why the PDP should be making this, unless there is a conscious attempt to create chaos ab initio and to probably make that house ungovernable, to create the impression that there cannot be stability in the National Assembly. And I don't think we need that at this moment. There are fundamental issues. The budget is there, the laws that are supposed to be passed are there, that I think are of more importance to majority of Nigerians. I don't think what Nigerians want to hear is who is the leader of the chief or the leader of opposition minority party. There are fundamental issues that I think should bother members of the House of Rep than just fighting over who should. And of course, the APC, the PDP should know that if you push this guy to the extreme, because he was suspended without even being given fair hearing. Yeah. He was not invited, they just suspended him. And I think that's a form of desperation. If you push him too far, they might eventually lose him. And PDP would be the loser at the end of the day, just like you have said.
Before we leave this matter, would it be totally unbearable if for once parties left the legislative institutions to choose its leaders, Babajide?
Maybe from now on, it's because that tradition has been there for party leaders to just send a list, and even the APC too. APC too has been doing that. So maybe from now on, it will be difficult, and parties will realize that there are limitations to the exercise of their powers. So these guys have been elected, they have a job to do. Let them choose their leaders. Let them choose their leaders at caucus levels. If you want them to vote for your candidate, that's what Obasanjo was doing. He will go and talk to them, the leaders of the different caucuses. They will organize the semblance of an election. But Obasanjo's signature will be firmly on that election. He will have chosen someone. You will not see clearly that he forced
anybody.
Yes. But at the caucus level, they will have those meetings and choose who their leaders will be. So parties too must continually engage their members. So when you engage them, chances are that you will be able to convince them that this is the best person, to vote for. APC succeeded with Gwajabiamila and Lawan. It took a long while before they succeeded. So that is the way to go. Not simply write a long list and just pass to the Speaker of the House of Reps and you expect him to go and announce those people as in the minority positions. I don't think it will continue to be tolerated by these guys. In any case, they spend their own money to get into and party leaders will have fleeced them thoroughly, because that is where party leaders make money. When people put nomination and the rest, primaries, that's where they make their millions.
Endorsements. So
you will have taken so much money from them at that level, then they get into the National Assembly, you still don't want them to exercise some independence. You still want to, no, you can't continue.
All right, the drama at the 9th Assembly is still unfolding. Still to come on Journalist Hangout, Nigeria Medical Association NMA raises alarm over exodus of doctors, says brain drain is fueling newborn and maternal deaths in the country. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thank you for staying tuned. You're still on to Journalist Hangout on TVC. Figures from the World Health Organization, WHO, show that the doctor-to-patients ratio in Nigeria is 1 doctor to more than 5,000 patients. Compare this to places like the United Kingdom with 2.8 to 1,000 patients and the US with 2.5 to 1,000. Then you will know that Nigeria is in a precarious situation medically. The maternal and newborn mortality indices in the country is also scary. The Nigeria Medical Association NMA says the country's high infant and maternal mortality rate is caused by the unchecked exodus of doctors and other healthcare personnel from the country annually. The chairman of the NMA in Lagos State, Saliu Oseni, called on the federal government to correct the trend before it is too late. We should have seen this coming. Now, compare this with what the former Minister of Labor said on television one time, not too long ago, a few months ago, that we have enough doctors in the country. Babajide.
Oh, that was why at that time the NMA disagreed with him, and it's on record that we also disagreed with him, and he had to come out to say he was misquoted or misrepresented. That's usually what happens when people suddenly realize that they have misheard. It is the journalists that they blame. Some of them even forget the fact that they were on record. I know someone who was abusing the former administration that they could not provide electricity, and it was recorded. The video went viral, only for him to say he was misquoted. Well, so these things happen. The truth is, we do not have enough doctors, especially in the rural areas. And it's in the rural areas that a lot of these maternal deaths, especially in the course of pregnancy, occur. It is in the rural areas that many women die in the course of live births, you know. So we have to do something about it. And if people continue to go abroad for greener pasture, it will affect the patient-doctor ratio. There's no way it won't affect. We have, in Nigeria, we have 30 medical colleges. India has 460 medical colleges. So even with the number of medical colleges that we have, there's little we can do to prune the gap. I mean the doctor-patient ratio. Because even if those institutions, those medical colleges are producing 200 doctors a year, in 50 years, we will not still be able to meet the gap. Right now, we need about 270,000 doctors. We need about 270,000 doctors. How do we make up? That's why I'm saying even the medical institutions are not enough. Then what are we doing by way of encouraging the doctors to stay? A lot of the doctors that you see, they don't want to work in the rural areas. But you must incentivize even transfers to those areas. That's the only way that people want to stay. And those of them who are even working in the urban centers here, they are just looking for an opportunity to travel abroad. Frankly, it's an economic thing. I don't think that any doctor in Nigeria, especially those of them who are young, would see an offer to work in the UK and earn about £5,000, and then he will say he's not going. That was a time that Indian doctors were so many in our country. But the Indian economy is doing well now. They've returned. You won't find Indian doctors here, except maybe in a few hospitals. So this is the thing. There's a lot that we need to do to make people enjoy working in our country, especially doctors. If we do not do all of that, then it will be difficult for us to improve health-wise. All the indices show clearly that we are among the worst in the world, and we need to really do something about that.
Majid, in 2017, the former Minister of Health inaugurated a 34-man task force to reduce maternal mortality. Evidently, that has not worked. If not, we'll not be talking about this now. Has it?
Yeah, the indices are quite alarming, and it's not about setting up a task force. I mean, there are some conditions that must be met, and when we talk of greener pastures, and also, I mean, if you look at what these guys go through to pass through a medical school, you will know that, I mean, the fees are quite higher. They don't have holidays. They spend 5 years. After 5 years, they go for housemanship. They do all sorts. I mean, to even get placements for the housemanship is another heinous task. And if you now look at the offers that are available abroad, it takes a whole lot of nationalism and probably sacrifice for them to want to stay here. In Nigeria, what a doctor takes as an average is about 100,000 per month. That's 1.2 million in a year. Whereas when they go abroad, the starting point is about $50,000, which is about 18 million naira. Some of them, depending on their years of qualification or their area of core competence or the area of specialization, could earn as much as $100,000 per annum, which is about 36 million naira. So, like Jide said, if there's an opportunity for a greener pasture, for them to look elsewhere, like in Saudi Arabia, they pay as much as $150,000 to $200,000 for doctors. So if such opportunities come, and even now for nurses, so
it's even all the professionals in their sector that are affected.
yes, all the professional
groups.
So you want to stay back in Nigeria where even the government will not even provide you with the equipment and facilities to work with. So you see that there's something we call telemedicine now, where doctors will be operating and you'll be getting feedback from all over the world. They will be doing some interconnectivity. And probably when they are doing that in Nigeria, the internet facility might be
no light.
low, or no
you
light
use phone to do
use phone
surgery.
to do surgery. So all those conditions, and I think we should commend the doctors we have in Nigeria, because in the past it used to be a 1 day, 1 strike. But now I think they are taking, it's not as if they are okay with the condition at which they are practicing, but I think they are taking that the
option of greener pasture.
That is it. Either the option of greener pasture, or rather they want to stay and help the poor, the poor masses in Nigeria. So, and I think the government should do more by providing those facilities. Thank God for Lagos State, we have the wife of the governor is a medical doctor, and she knows what she has been. Mrs. Tiv-Jukun Sanwo-Olu, she knows what she's been going through as a medical doctor before going to government house. And she was actually at that seminar where those issues were discussed, especially the perinatal. That's the ante and postnatal, the period just before birth and post-birth, which, Nigeria is one of the countries in the world where that rate of mortality is highly prevalent. So I think we need to do something about that.
Wale, Jide talked about needing 270,000 to make up, that gap, in the ratio. But then again, we know what needs to be done. It all goes back to remuneration of doctors. It goes back to other incentives, allowances. It goes back to facilities, the infrastructure in the health sector. Does this administration, or have successive administration, when we look at it generically now, demonstrated the political will to even increase? Let's start with the annual budget devoted to the health sector.
Well, I think we cannot isolate Medicare from the socio-political milieu that we find ourselves, where you have people in power that many of them seem not to be committed to addressing fundamental problems. Health is a fundamental problem, and medical science is one of the most critical aspects of living. In Nigeria, we are told we have about 72,000 medical doctors, registered medical doctors. Out of that, 35,000 of them practice abroad. And even out of those that are practicing in Nigeria, many of them are now leaving that field to go into other things that can bring quick money. You see medical doctors now that are
consultancy,
installation, consultancy,
and politics.
Politics. So it's a very serious problem. When you graduate after several years, and the next thing you want to do is to be doing buy and selling. Because even when you look at private clinics that are run by medical doctors, you hardly find patients there. You have a center for 1 month, maybe you are able to raise just about 30,000 naira. Because majority of Nigerians will still go to,
the public health centers.
Public health centers, and even go to native people for medicine and all sort of things. So, and we don't have a kind of social health insurance scheme for Nigerians, whereby if anybody falls on the street, you can take him somewhere, look at his ID, and then give him immediate treatment.
We have the NHIS.
NHIS.
The penetration is less than 2%.
Yes. And even when you're talking about accessibility of Nigerians to Medicare, you know, a lot of Nigerians, there's a problem, let's say around 1 a.m., a lot of people, before they can get to the nearest medical center, it takes several
Person
hours.
will have died.
And people have died, you know. So I think it has to be tied to the, you know, the challenge of the country itself. You can't isolate it. So we need good leaders who will fund medical science and also address the quality of teaching in our medical schools. In the 70s, when you are in third year, fourth year, people are already looking for you as a medical science. Hardly can you write any book on a journal or medical science all over the world without making references to UI, ABU, or UNN. You know, in fact, usage was one of the best, about number 5 in the Commonwealth as of 1970s. But today, our medical science, in terms of rating globally, is very low. So it's a very complex problem that, you know, funding, equipment, motivation, you know, and also public consciousness about, you know, public health is also very poor. So I hope our government will isolate this issue and give it preferential treatment. That medical science is a major thing that we need to address, but we can talk about sustainable development.
And we hope that either by proxy or directly, the relevant authorities are watching and will act accordingly. When we return from this next break, we'll be looking at the dicey setup in the quarterfinals of the ongoing African Nations Cup. Stay with Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying tuned to Journalist Hangout. The tournament of giant killers is what the ongoing 2019 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt has become, as it has witnessed the rise of the underdogs. The likes of Benin Republic and newcomers, Madagascar, braved the odds against giants like Morocco to reach the last 8. South Africa also recorded an upset against the host and favourites, Egypt, to set up a dicey quarter-final clash with the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Though the Super Eagles stunned the defending champions Cameroon 3-2 to reach the last 8, they must be wary of the Bafana team. Or Babajide, what do you think?
Yes, and I think Genadra has already indicated that. You see, sometimes to assess a team, you have to look at the way that team played, even when it lost a match. I watched the the South Africans against Cote d'Ivoire. They played very well. They were very competitive against a team that we all know is a giant when it comes to African football. Then they also they also lost their second match, but they played very well. They played very well. So they could have drawn both of those games that they lost. So you tell yourself that what is going on? This team must be strong, and it's on record that they beat Nigeria at home. They beat Nigeria 2-0 not long ago, although we could easily blame the goalkeeper Akpeyi for the misadventure. But Akpeyi does not constitute the Super Eagles. At least we should have replied one of those goals because we were playing at home, you know, in Uyo, but we couldn't reply those goals. So South Africa has come of age, and the coach, Baxter, appears to have found the right formula. The team attacks with all the strength that it's got, and they defend very well. And they are very competitive. The midfield is strong. So I know that this will be a tough match for Nigeria. And even if we beat them, I'm not predicting that we'll beat them. Even if we beat them, we will see clearly that we were made to work hard for the victory. So this is a very good South African team. I think in many years, this is the best team that South Africa has been able to put together since the days of Dr. Kumalo, Mark Fish, and the rest of them.
My colleague Mian Akiri has joined us, our sports correspondent and anchor. Welcome, Mian.
Nice to be here once again.
Mian, the giants have fallen. We've seen Cameroon fall in this team and the other giants. What does this portend for the quarterfinals?
Well, I think we should expect interesting quarterfinal matches, no doubt. Like you said, it's been a tournament whereby, the underdogs, have taken out the giant killers. Starting from last week, Friday, you had the Scourers of Benin Republic. For the first time, they are in the round of 16 of the African Cup of Nations. We would have thought that Benin Republic would have edged out the Atlas Lions of Morocco. It's almost impossible. You can't compare the Moroccan league and the quality of Morocco players to that of Benin Republic. And then take a look at them, the Egyptian national team. All through the group stages, they played very well. They had a balanced team. They've got a player like Mohamed Salah. They've got the likes of El Neni, well exposed. What do you want? They are the tournament host. The Egyptian Football Association prepared this team very well for this tournament. In fact, when that happened, because it is a country with structure, whereby everyone has given what is expected, the board members of the Egyptian Football Association resigned while the tournament is still ongoing. Now, what this means is when you've done your best, when you've given your all and results aren't coming your way, they start asking the right questions, and those who probably have given shots to whatever they did and didn't get the results right should step aside. What do I mean? Irrespective of the fact that, yes, the Super Eagles who were playing against South Africa should expect a tough encounter against the final performer of South Africa, owing to what we've seen so far in this tournament, I don't think it is too much to demand for results. A victory, no doubt. Yes, the Eagles have not been playing, optimally to what we expect. But on their good day, they will beat the South Africans on paper. We saw the qualifiers in Uyo. That was Kenneth Raw's first defeat during the qualifiers for the AFCON tournament. South Africans came here. Raw felt he needed players who were much more younger, kept out the likes of Odion Igalo from the national team, John Obi Mikel from the national team, as I then said, well, these are players who have seen it, they're playing in China now, it's not that competitive. But when these players came back, they were the one that gave the Eagles team a balance. My worry, my fear for Kenneth Raw now is the return of John Obi Mikel. Some Nigerians will say, yes, Mikel is back to the team. Mikel is back in training. But I feel it's a bit worrisome. Why? When Mikel was benched for the second game by Kenneth Raw, sadly it was not reported by the Nigerian media that Mikel had a confrontation with Raw in the camp of the Super Eagles. Some players are loyal to Mikel as the captain of the team, even if they are not showing it out there. So going into this match against South Africa, it's one thing Raw must indeed get it right. Who are your first 11? Against Cameroon at halftime, we were down and out. Samuel Chukwueze was left on the bench for a very long time. But yes, he came on and got the desired results. But henceforth, because it's winner takes it all at this stage, if you don't get the desired results, you're out. Raw should begin to display his best 11. Right. And if Mikel is not in your best 11 or your plans, go for other options.
Me and your commentary has thrown up a lot of issues which I want to bring before Babajide, one of which is key. Mian says there must be some form of pressure. There must be a demand for results. Babajide, if this is done perhaps from the NFF or from the federal government at another level, will it make any difference in the performance of the Super Eagles ahead of the match against Bafana?
I have my doubts. You can give the coach, you see, delivering victory is the job of everyone. The coach, the support staff, the players. If you tell the coach you must win this game, of course he wants to win. But if the players do not correctly interpret his tactics, he's not going to win. There are some mistakes that players make on the field that ruin the chances of coaches to progress in competitions. Some little errors. Look at when Barcelona switched off against Liverpool. They were going to play the corner kick. Players who had played at that level, you do not expect them to switch off. They were ball watching. They were just, it's like they had forgotten that they were in the middle of a very important game. And they were not prepared. And that pass was made, thanks to the very sharp ball boy. Gave the ball to ANN. And then we saw that goal. So players will make mistakes. My point, I do not think that Mikel deserves to start in a Super Eagles game at this time. But the coach has explained why he didn't start Chukwueze. He said Chukwueze does not offer the kind of defensive solidity that Moses Simon offers. And his fear was that the left back, the Cameroonian left back, is an attack-minded defender, always going forward. So he needed someone who could at least provide some form of defensive solidity. But later on in the second half, he brought him in and he changed the game. So sometimes coaches coaches don't always think the way we think. I was watching the analysis of the Cameroon-Egypt game, and the South Africa-Egypt game, and the South African coach said, see, I wanted him to make changes early. But I also reasoned that he had his reasons for holding on a little bit, that if he had brought that guy in too early, that he probably would not have been able to instigate the victory. So, no doubt the South African team is strong. We have to come up with our A game. If we come up with our A game, we should be able to beat South Africa. If we don't win this competition, I won't feel too bad, because I don't think we are the best. I've seen, when you look at the way the Algerian team plays, they are here to concede in this tournament. You fear for the Super Eagles.
We hope that the Super Eagles go ahead to surprise not just the coach, but Nigerians, which is key. Nian, we have just a little more time, and I want you to talk about the role of Mikel. If I heard you correctly, you talked about him posing some form of threat because some players are loyal to him. How can this be resolved?
Well, interestingly, Mikel has made it clear. Mikel has made it clear that after the AFCON tournament, he will be retiring from the Super Eagles. He knew that his days indeed in the team are numbered, and what he could offer, week in, week out, play national team is almost difficult for him. So I think after the Nations Cup, we can just take it up from.
So he posed no threat to the stability of this team?
All things being equal, hopefully.
Hopefully. All right, that's our offering on Journalist Hangout today. Join us tomorrow for another edition of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing you on your screen or on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.